Hip-hop is a genre steeped in Black American culture, and throughout the years we've had many artists change and shape the way it looks and sounds. However, the phenomenon known as the white rapper paradox, which I totally made up, I'm not gonna lie to you, I made that up, highlights the complex dynamics faced by white artists in the hip-hop industry. This paradox posits that white rappers, despite their talent, are often not considered the best due to their race, while at the same time, black artists with equal talent may not receive the same commercial push because they don't appeal as broadly to white audiences. Eminem is inarguably the most successful white rapper in history, and probably the most successful rapper in history, and he serves as the central figure in this discussion, illuminating the paradox and nuance of being a white rapper. Eminem's rise to stardom in the late 90s and early 2000s was meteoric. His raw talent, lyrical prowess, and unique storytelling abilities quickly set him apart in the hip-hop community. However, his success most of the time is attributed to the fact that he's white. Many argue that Eminem's whiteness made him more marketable to a predominantly white audience, facilitating his crossover appeal and commercial success. The debate over Eminem's place in hip-hop often centers on the validity of his achievements. Critics argue that his accolades, including Grammy Awards and record-breaking sales, are inflated due to his race. This viewpoint suggests that his contributions to hip-hop are less authentic or impactful compared to black artists. On the other hand, Eminem supporters contend that Eminem's talent and dedication to the craft merit recognition, regardless of his race. Without a doubt, Eminem's skin color played a role in his success. It's just, you can't argue it. Assuming there was a black rapper who could do what Eminem could do as far as rapping and artistry, they definitely would not have been as big as Eminem in his prime. That being said, if there was a black artist who did what Eminem did as far as music, achievement, and sales, they would be universally recognized as the greatest of all time. That's why it's a paradox. I hear a lot of people that make the argument saying that if that's the case, if Eminem is so successful because he's white, then why don't other white rappers succeed? The truth is, they do. Not on the level of Eminem, but they do. The white rappers always succeed more than their black counterparts of an equal talent level. Eminem just happens to have an exceptional level of talent, which allowed him to succeed exceptionally. He's legit one of the greatest MCs that has ever touched the mic, but there's a reason why white rappers succeed more than their black counterparts at the same level. And the reason is, audiences love novelty. And I'm not using the term novelty as a negative. I'm saying audiences love something different. So when audiences see someone doing something at this high of a level that doesn't look like the people who typically dominate the space, they're naturally curious. And it's not just a hip-hop thing either. The concept of novelty in any field often contributes to an individual's success, especially when they break through existing racial and cultural barriers. This phenomenon is evident across many domains, where individuals who are seen as novelties not only achieve success, but also bring a spotlight to their immense talent. Take, for instance, Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods revolutionized the sport of golf, a domain historically dominated by white athletes, right? He had exceptional talent. But when you couple that with his racial background, it brought unprecedented attention to the sport. Woods dominated the golf course and won numerous major championships, breaking many records, demonstrating that his success was not merely a novelty, but because of his extraordinary talent. But it wouldn't have been as big of a story if he wasn't black. It makes people curious. It made black people curious. Niggas not watching golf, I promise you that. But because there was a black man dominating this white sport, not only did black people come and watch because they were curious, but everybody wanted to see this phenomenon and this anomaly in this Caucasian space. The same can be said for Serena Williams. Serena also redefined her sport. Her powerful playing style, athleticism, and competitive spirit set her apart in a sport like golf that is predominantly dominated by whites. Williams won numerous Grand Slam titles, and her status as one of the greatest tennis players of all time underscores the fact that the success has to be grounded in immense talent. But objectively, if there was someone dominating in the exact same way who was supposed to dominate, then it wouldn't be such a story. Sidney Poitier in Hollywood is another great example. He was dominating acting in a time where there weren't very many black people dominating in mainstream Hollywood. He was winning awards, starring in some of the biggest films of the year, and he became one of the biggest stars of his era. Did his talent level deserve that sort of praise? Of course, but you can't say that he wasn't sort of a novelty for audiences of the time. Both black and white audiences were enthralled by this black man's talent in a white-dominated industry. You can even see that in modern music with like an artist like Shabuzi, who's now dominating the country field. Extremely talented, bringing something different to the genre, but he blew up because he was black. I remember black Instagram pages posting him when he first came out, very curious about this very black man making very country music and sounding good doing it. To be very clear, I'm not saying these people are not extremely talented, and the praise and attention that they get is appropriate for each of their talent levels. But you cannot say that they were not a novelty in a field that doesn't typically have people that look like them. It's like if you put a black dot on a white canvas, your eye is automatically going to be drawn to that black dot. Why? Because it's different from what you normally see. To flip it back to the white side, you can even see it with Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. She's probably the greatest women's basketball player in NCAA history, which has brought so much more attention to the WNBA. And yes, it's because she's talented, but it's also because she's white. And that's evident because there are other extremely talented basketball players in the WNBA that don't get the same attention that she does. It's not a bad thing, but it is a thing. In a genre dominated by black artists, Eminem's whiteness made him a novelty, attracting curiosity and interest from mainstream audiences who might have otherwise ignored hip-hop. This racial dynamic allowed him to break through barriers that many equally talented black rappers couldn't. Moreover, Eminem's success was bolstered by his association with Dr. Dre, a respected figure in hip-hop. And this cosign was crucial for Eminem to be accepted as a real rapper and not just a novelty act. Now, Eminem's success illustrates the dual-edged nature of the white rapper paradox. His race made him more accessible for white audiences, but it also subjected his achievements to dismissal by some who view his success and achievements as a byproduct of white privilege. But here's the thing, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Eminem is an extremely talented rapper, but he's also an extremely talented artist, which are separate things. Now, while being a novelty will attract initial attention and open many doors, you can't just be a novelty. Sustained success has to come from actual talent. And everybody that I've mentioned, excluding Shabuzi and Caitlin Clark, because they're pretty new to their fields, has sustained talent, including Eminem. Eminem is not successful on his ability to rap alone. No successful rapper is. You have to have the ability to rap and the ability to write a song. Because at the end of the day, the casual listener isn't connecting with the lyrics, they're connecting with the song. There are a lot of rapidy rap rappers that don't get any shine, don't get any love because they can't make music that actually penetrates people's lives. Eminem made songs that people love to listen to. Eminem made a huge splash with white audiences initially because he was talented and white. But the sustained level of talent is what gave him such a long career. That being said, many talented black rappers will struggle with the industry's marketing that favors artists who can appeal to white audiences. You have talented black artists like Jid or Denzel Curry or JPEG Mafia who are extremely talented but don't necessarily fit the marketing plan of executives trying to make money. Marketability has no race. Don't get it twisted. And the majority of successful rappers are black. However, being a talented white rapper often garners more attention more easily and opens marketable doors. Another layer of this paradox is the distinction between cultural appropriation and appreciation. Eminem is often praised for his respect for the hip-hop game. He acknowledges his influences and gives credit to the black artists that paved the way for him and the black artists that came up with him and came up after him. But the broader issue of cultural appropriation remains contentious as some white rappers are accused of exploiting black culture for their own personal gain without contributing and advancing the culture as a whole. You can see this with rappers like Post Malone, who leaned heavily on stereotypical cultural elements of hip-hop, and once he became successful, this nigga switched genres and became a pop star and now a country singer. The anxiety about this is rooted in the history of music and black art. And stuff like this has happened throughout history. Artists like Benny Goodman and Glenn Miller achieved widespread success and fame by performing music that originated in black communities, while many of the pioneering black artists struggled to gain the same recognition. The 1950s saw the rise of rock and roll, a genre that blended elements of blues, jazz, and gospel, all black genres. Black artists like Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Fats Domino were instrumental in creating this new sound. However, it was white performers such as Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Buddy Holly who gained much more prominence and commercial success. Elvis Presley is even often called the king of rock and roll. In the 1960s, the British invasion furthered this dynamic. Bands like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Who were heavily inspired by Black American rock and roll and blues artists. And while these British bands acknowledged openly their influences, they nevertheless achieved the level of success that their black counterparts didn't. The Beatles covered songs by artists like Chuck Berry and Little Richard, making the sound more global, but it was the Beatles themselves who reaped the benefits of this. Bringing it back to hip-hop, which originated in the Bronx in the 1970s, it's a genre that's deeply embedded in African American culture. As it grew, it maintained its roots, but it also attracted white artists. Artists like the Beastie Boys, one of the first prominent white hip-hop groups, garnered mainstream success in the 1980s, and while they are respected for their unique contributions and style, their whiteness also helped them reach audiences that blacks could not reach. The pattern continued with artists like Vanilla Ice and his success with Ice Ice Baby, which commercial run far exceeded that from many black artists with arguably superior talents and deeper connections to the genre. In recent years, you see this dynamic playing out with the aforementioned Post Malone and Macklemore and Iggy Azalea. All of these artists have varying degrees of criticism for their perceived cultural appropriation and benefiting disproportionately on a genre rooted in black culture. Eminem is one of the greatest MCs that has ever touched the mic. All that being said, it's understandable why people feel that way about Eminem. Eminem is really a unique artist in the sense that he has the talent to be considered one of the greats, but he also benefited because he was white. In a sense, he's both benefiting because he's white and being held back because he's white. Saying him being white is a strong contributor to his success is valid, but calling him one of the greatest rappers ever is also valid. Look, man, there is no answer for the white rapper's paradox. If another white rapper, say Jack Harlow, came through and did phenomenal numbers, breaking every record that anybody's ever set in hip-hop, he would have this same argument lobbied against him. Which isn't fair. But given the history of white people succeeding in black art spaces, and more specifically given the history of white success in hip-hop, it's kind of valid. Fair? No. Valid? Yeah.